show. Yeah, that's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. It is a news-filled week in the world of Notre Dame football. There is always a lot. It feels like there's more than usual to discuss. And with me to break it all down, it is the managing editor of Notre Dame Fighting Irish, brought to you by SI. It is Nick Shepkowski. Ooh, look at that green screen. Oh, the technology here. Look at this.
Wow. My hands are disappearing in it. But yeah, finally something different, better to look at behind me instead of, trying to shuffle the shelves and whatever else. John, it's the first time I've talked to you since you turned 40. Happy birthday, dude.
Oh, thank you, man.
Reggie Brooks years old.
It is weird seeing that 4 in front of your name, man. It is just like a realization. When you look back to like being in college, you looked at a 40-year-old like, what an old man. Like, and now that's me now. I can't believe I'm that far removed from being like young. It's 40, man. So I will see what this decade provides in Notre Dame football land. We'll see what we could get. See if we could get maybe a major bowl win or a playoff win out of it this decade.
Yeah, I mean, God, just thinking about that, we're damn near the same age. I'm not quite 40 yet, but 1993, or I guess January of 94, was a long stinking time ago.
Yes,
holy smokes! Does a college football playoff win, by the way, in your home stadium, does that count as a big bowl win?
Yeah, most definitely.
Right? Okay, yeah. Just making sure.
Yeah,
I saw people on there. I posted a bowl projection thing last week, and one of the people that responded in my Twitter feed was, well, I'd rather just go to a bowl and win that than getting a playoff game and lose. Like, and the bowl streak, like this would be a big bowl game. Thank you, people. People are very uninformed. There's a very uninformed public of how this whole thing works.
We didn't even get 2 minutes in, and I'm about to yell. This is not a good start, Nick. Somebody told me.
Don't worry, I got more for you.
Somebody told me too, like, I would rather not make the playoff this year and win a bowl, a good bowl game instead. But my argument is there. But my argument is there are no other bowl games that matter, especially now that this playoff's expanded to 12. Nothing outside of that matters to me at all in any way for anything of value at all. That's all gone. If you're not in that 12-teamer, none of those other bowls mean anything, and they barely did before. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I'm always of the side where if there's a game being played, I want to win it. So I never look at a bowl game of being like, okay, just throw it out, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If there's a game being played, I want to win. If there's a playoff party being had, like back when it was 4 teams and a date with Alabama was imminent or whatever it was, I want to be I want to be invited to the dance instead of, be sitting at home on my arse. But regardless of the outcome of what's about to happen, but yeah, it's playoff or bust. And that's what the standard is for Notre Dame, not just this year, for the foreseeable future, especially when this thing bumps up to 14 teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think that should be controversial. I don't think there's any other opinions on it, although I can't get our head coach to say this, though. And I had that note from the presser before the Stanford game of him being asked, what are the expectations or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said something like, we just want to be the best version of ourselves. That kind. We want to find ourselves.
Sounds like I'm sitting on the couch with my therapist.
Like how philosophical.
What are you looking for in year 39, Nick? I'm just trying to find the best version of myself.
Yes.
So, finding serenity. Thank you for asking.
Serenity now. Why can't you just say, listen, man, the standard, this is Notre Dame. We're going to run the table, win the rest of our games, and go to the playoff, and that is the bar. Like, that's what we're going for here. But he couldn't do it, and it turned into, we're going to be the best version of ourselves. Well, I hope that ends up in going 6-0 the remaining game. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Mike Tomlin thing, right, in Pittsburgh, is that whenever he's asked about what expectations are, he's like, the standard's the standard. Franchise has won 6 Super Bowls. The standard's the standard. Compare everything to that.
Yeah.
Listen, times have changed. Notre Dame's in a different world than when they ran the college football world, but hey, the standard is still the standard of competing for national championships on a regular basis, and not just, not just getting invited to the dance, but actually having a dance partner and being able to have a little bit of fun once you get there. I think that's a fair expectation.
Well, that is the fight. Notre Dame's in the rest of the way here. So Nick, really heavy news week for Notre Dame. You know what happens to me? I do my morning show Monday mornings early. And what happens is it ends, and then Freeman does his presser or whatever. Oftentimes, my show ends and all the news breaks because he's in the presser, and then he drops news, and then other news comes. And so I kind of missed that wave on a Monday. And so it was fun today, the next day we went live, to be able to catch the reaction from all the people on all the news. I'm really interested to know where your mind is at on a lot of these different items. Number one is more devastating injury news for Notre Dame. Absolutely brutal hit. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame career over, hip injury, going to be out, recover, get ready for the NFL, whatever. It's just another brutal blow to this Notre Dame roster. Nick, what do you make of this news?
It stinks. Flat out, it stinks. Football and football results aside, it just stinks. So if you see, I think you look at Benjamin Morrison, and he is the absolute player that kind of encapsulates this turn of Notre Dame, especially in the secondary. It's not that Notre Dame hasn't had good secondary players before. Kyle Hamilton, and in recent memory, obviously they've had good ones. Todd Light, there's greats that have played. But in recent memory, there's been some. Julian Love, Kyle Hamilton immediately come to mind. Harrison Smith's going to go to the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yep.
But like Benjamin Morrison speaks to this era of Notre Dame defensive backs, I think, better than any, because not that recruiting rankings matter at all. I shouldn't say at all, but as much as they're hyped to be, he was like, the 30th ranked cornerback in the class, comes out his freshman year. By November of that year, has the big pick six against Clemson. He has 2 interceptions in that game. Ends with, I don't know, was it 6 or 7 interceptions? And it's like, oh my God, this speaks to the being able to find talent. This speaks to being able to find and develop talent. It just speaks to like what Mike Mickens has done so well. First at cornerback, and now since he's got promoted to the entire defensive backfield. And I think Benjamin Morrison is a player that encapsulates that the most, because you look at it, that should be, injuries have piled up with him a little bit here. This isn't, he had this shoulder surgery this past offseason, this past spring. This is going to be a hip surgery that he undergoes. Was it the bowl game against South Carolina that he left with a concussion? Like, there's a little bit to his. So I hope he still remains a first-round pick. I genuinely do. If I'm advising the young man, it's, hey, go get your money. You only have a certain window to be able to go do that and get paid a lot of money to do so. Go take advantage of that. But it just stinks because it goes so fast. Like, man, Benjamin Morrison was just a freshman. Man, Benjamin Morrison's not going to wear blue and gold and pads in the helmet again. This sucks.
It's just, it's one hit after the next here with this team and these injuries, and it just keeps piling up. And I feel like there are times where we probably, as much credit as Morrison's gotten over his short, 2.5 year tenure, basically, I feel like there's still times where we all took for granted what he did, because it isn't just plays made. It's plays that never need to be made because he's out there doing what he's doing. When you're at that position, that's the interesting part. It isn't just the plays you make. It's the plays no one has to make, because you're locking down the opposition's number one target or half the field. And you're doing all that work that eliminates other work. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And the other thing is, you talked about like the legacy building back there now, what Mickens is doing and all this. Morrison's a part of raising that standard of the modern era of Notre Dame play on the back end of the defense. And it's almost like this ceremonial passing of the torch. It's going to go down to Christian Gray now. And he's going to be like the guy you look at as the young leader of this group. And then you got Moore and Carson Hobbs behind them. All these guys are so young, but long and athletic and have all those traits you want. Mickens deserves so much credit and what they're doing and flipping that room. Our whole childhood, Nick, the secondary was one of the worst parts of Notre Dame's team and a reason we lost every big game to every good team we played. To see them be this good, it's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to like some of those even better Notre Dame defenses from like our teens of, okay, there's Shane Walton. Okay. Vontez Duff, that's a converted running back, or some of the other DBs you threw in there. Like, it was never across the board. And it feels like this is much more across the board, defensive back wise. And Morrison is, I think you said it perfectly there. Like, you see this, was it 7 interceptions his freshman year? He's never come close to touching that number, and that's not a knock on him. That's because, oh, crap, we're not throwing that way. You know? I mean, you look what he did to Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. Had handcuffs on him the entire evening against Ohio State. He had the one big catch that was like a circus catch. And that's the 4th overall pick in last year's NFL draft, or this year's NFL draft, that Morrison did that against. He took away the best receiver with regularity. And that, you can't see enough about how valuable that is, of just what it allows Al Golden to be able to do when you can, all right, I trust Morrison, whatever receiver he's on, welcome to Benjamin Morrison Island. It does take away a lot with that. Now, I think when you look at Notre Dame, what's kind of favorable here, Georgia Tech's got some good receivers, got some speed that you're going to have to deal with. When you look at Notre Dame's schedule, okay, there's Georgia Tech and there's the USC games that like to really, can throw the ball. Not that they love to, but they can throw the ball. Army, Navy, those 2 games on there. Virginia's improved, but it's not like they're putting up this huge a passing arsenal that's going to go crazy on you. And it's a position of strength that we've kind of talked about, some young strength, but strength nonetheless. It sucks, but it's also, imagine if this position, if this grouping, if this depth wasn't what it was, you'd be looking and saying, okay, there's no way this team's going to the playoff. There's no way this team's winning out. Now you're losing a potential top 15, top 20 draft pick, and you're still, I mean, I don't want to say it's like, oh yeah, shoe in and going to win out, but you still feel kind of decent about things, even with not just the Morrison injury, but just the stack upon stack upon stacks of injuries this team has had to go through.
That's one of the big questions I don't have an answer to, Nick. When I look at the remaining, the half the year we got left, I look at all these injuries. The offensive line situation was in a bad spot before we even started the year, and that's gotten more taxing with guys going down. The defensive line and the depth there, you're burning through guys on the edge to get after the quarterback. Now you have this. My question is, at what point do you see all these injuries stacking up to where it sways you to where you're like, man, I could just see Notre Dame dropping another dumb game here because you just can't survive losing this many key contributors and keep it moving? Are we at that point, or are you doing the next man up's got to be good enough and we feel like we could run this when you look at the talent we have and the back end of this schedule? Like, are you worried about it? Because I'm worried about it. And every time another one of these news things breaks about our injury, I go, which one is too many to where it tips the scale and you lose another dumb game or two? Like, where's your mind at on this?
I mean, my mind goes to, and this is an easy answer, but it's the who. It's not just like a certain number of injuries. And we've already seen it this year. When Riley Leonard, was it bruised shoulder or whatever it was against Northern Illinois, and they decided we cannot run Riley Leonard, offense was non-existent. Completely non-existent when he did not have the ability to run. Something happens to him the way this team is built. Okay, you can tell me how much better of a passer Steve Angeli is, and you're right. This offense is not going to function with Angeli in at quarterback. So, that's one of them. If something, God forbid, happens to Jeremiah Love, where he tweaks an ankle or something, okay, there's your speed burst and ability to break one on any play that's just gone. That now, okay, there's depth at running back, but there's not another Jeremiah Love. So it's more not like how much can they withstand, but what can they withstand is I think is the better question, because
situationally.
there's certain parts there, like Howard Cross goes and tears a bicep and he's out for the year. It's bleep.
Yeah.
This whole defense is in it deep, we'll just say.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. Notre Dame's in this 6-game CFP race. You look at it as 6 elimination games, almost the way this is set up. A really interesting schedule, and it has not shaken out the way any of us figured. Who would have had, Nick? Nobody in America, fan, writer, pundit, no one had. We're at the halfway point, and Navy and Army are trending straight up, undefeated, best output since World War II. And trending down are old brand name helmets, USC and Florida State. But here we are, man. This is our reality. It's wild.
I know, and it's amazing to me when certain coaches just have their water carried for them and they can get away with stuff. It's amazing to me, because there's one in California, city of Los Angeles right now, where like, those games could have gone either way. They didn't go their way. Like, okay, I could have picked the winning lottery ticket, would have picked the winning lottery numbers, and I wouldn't have to work the rest of my life. But guess what? I didn't. Like, those games were toss-ups and could have ended differently. Yeah, they could have, but all of them didn't. I'm talking about USC. I'm talking about Lincoln Riley. It's like, I don't know why, because the guy is a complete bag to the media as well. Like, you ever watch any of his press conferences, don't you dare ask him about something that didn't go right.
I feel like that LA media contingent, the amount of people in that circle that it all revolves around USC. The LA media thing is weird.
Yeah, but it's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not Philadelphia that we're used to. It's different.
And it's not Boston. But you have a circle of people that are long timers that USC makes the world go round there to them. They're already done. They are so frustrated with the way he's handling the media stuff. He is done. Why would you ask him that question? Nobody likes this crap, man. Just answer the questions.
Yeah, right. Like, you get paid. There's your annual salary has a 10 and a lot of zeros behind it. Like,
yeah, it does.
Face the tough questions. Answer the damn questions. Like, get over yourself. But yeah, doesn't really bother me also with the trending of a couple of those teams that you mentioned either in there. But it is the thing with Army and Navy. I'm trying to enjoy it, because when you look at what both have played so far, it's really unimpressive.
Yeah.
True. There's not a whole lot on those resumes that you're like, oh my God, that's top 25 teams that they've beaten. Army went and they beat Memphis the week after Memphis knocked off FSU. So that's about as big as it gets. I hope we're talking about it, not just for like the benefit of, Notre Dame's schedule. I just think it would be really stinking cool, because how would this be to work out? If they're able to both run their conference, I'm not even saying beat Notre Dame, but just win their conferences. And then you have them go into what should be Army-Navy week, but then they will have already played the week before the American Athletic Conference Championship against each other. Then they come back a week later for the Army-Navy game. Just the hilarity of that and the absurdity of that, I think, would be awesome. Of like, all right, well, we haven't played the regular season yet.
I didn't even think that through.
Like, that would be absurd, of getting Army-Navy back-to-back weeks. And one of them, like, okay, this is the one that matters. You win the conference. But then this next one could be, if all things fall right, could be the conference champion potentially being that 12th seed in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Like, it's an awesome year of college football.
That is wild. It does seem like, tell me if maybe your perception of this is different than mine. I feel like we're seeing a lot more parity this year, and especially I'm seeing this in the Big Ten and the SEC. I feel like eliminating those divisions and getting more of a round robin thing where you're getting more teams in the mix, having to play other good teams, not just hide in their weak side of a division. I feel like you're really starting to see that take effect. And in both those conferences, it really does feel like most teams could sneak up and compete with most teams no matter what. And we're seeing a lot of that this year, and I'm enjoying it week to week.
I think part of it's that. I think that is I think you're certainly right, where it's not, the old Big Ten East where it's Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And it's like, all right, well, Big Ten West will be entertaining, but the champion's not going to compete for the actual
Northwestern
title.
with 4 losses. Good luck against Ohio State in that title game, baby.
Right. Yeah. So it is definitely, I think that's part of it. I think the bigger thing is, as much as the transfer portal and NIL plays into, that's frustrating. It's weird. It's different. It's not handled right. It's taken away the depth of a lot of these truly elite teams. So even
that's such a good point.
Go through your top 5 right now. Texas, Oregon, Ohio State. Yeah, they've all benefited from the transfer portal. They've also lost depth to the transfer portal. So this super team idea that when Alabama or Clemson, which one's it going to be? We'll see when they play in the championship. That's pretty much out the window. It kind of stinks. I was thinking about this after the Oregon-Ohio State game last week, and that was exciting. It lived up to the hype, and I bucket list instantly towards the top. Autzen Stadium's always been on there, but for an environment like that's way towards the top of my get-to list on the college football tour that I want to go to when I'm retired one day. But that game doesn't kind of matter. Okay, yeah. Oregon, you go handle your business. Ohio State, you go handle yours. You'll meet again in Indianapolis in front of what will probably be a very favorable Ohio State crowd, seeing as Columbus is down the street and Oregon's across the country.
Yep.
And Oregon's,
I had this debate with an Ohio State guy because I'm like, get over it. You're going to be fine. And they're like, well, you didn't get over it when you lost to Ohio State last year. Totally different situation. You felt like Notre Dame needed that game to make the 4-team playoff, and that ruined it all. I don't look at that this way at all. I understand the frustration with the way it ended at the very end for them, but they're in a great position and still have a chance to win the Big Ten. They're in a good position still.
Right. I would still
totally
say they're
different.
I would still say they're the favorite. I would still look at it and say, if I had to put money on it today, Ohio State is still a team I'm taking to win the Big Ten. But I just think it speaks to there's not that super team out there.
Yeah.
Texas is number 1 right now. And it's okay, Texas went and they kicked the crap out of Michigan. All right, well, we've learned about Michigan. Georgia's coming. Okay. Texas has a lot of work still left to do.
Hey, can
Ohio
I interject?
State's got the loss.
Let me interject.
Yeah.
Is Brett Venables in trouble at Oklahoma already? What the hell's going on there, man? You got that defense in a better spot, but the offense is totally regressed. It's like an inverse of what they were complaining about. The defense got fixed, but that offense is terrible. And there's Oklahoma people can't stand sitting there and watch and see what Texas is doing. I don't know if that tenure's in trouble yet or not.
I mean, it's fascinating looking at that crazy coaching carousel that we were a part of, obviously.
Yeah.
But looking at the guys in their third years now of, really start to evaluate this. And I think this speaks to, I know it's easy to get on Marcus Freeman, and I've gotten on him for some of the things of a team that seems disinterested at times. There's frustrating losses in there. If you want to grade press conferences, there's some of that can be done too. But start to grade him with his coaching class or coaching carousel class. And tell me where he ranks. All right, so you had Kalen DeBoer was in that. It took him 2 years at Washington to get to the championship game. I feel safe in saying his resume, what he did at Washington, trumps anything else that's out there. He got the Alabama job. Now you can talk about how he's doing there and control of a locker room and some things, but that's all right. He gets a pass because he's not even in the same position anymore. But then it goes who? Dan Lanning goes from the Georgia DC to Oregon, has Oregon in a prime spot to play for a championship, being one of those top 4, top 5 teams in the country this year. And then tell me who ranks above Marcus Freeman. Venables? Lincoln Riley?
Well, where do you put Kelly? I was going to say, where do you put old Kelly there? He's skating by. Man, Kelly keeps
it's a huge win last week. Huge win last week for him. Yep. But I guess to the bigger point is, okay, you knew there was going to be some growing pains with Freeman. There have been some growing pains with Freeman. Long-term identity of an offense, I would love to know what it's going to be when Riley Leonard's gone at the end of this year and you don't have that same kind of athletic ability at quarterback. But in terms of like what he was hired with or against in the same year, I mean, to the guys still in those positions, like it's Lanning and it's kind of Freeman. Venables has been, all right, Oklahoma's defense is great. Cool, you can't score points. Like, you can't score. And in modern college football, you can have the best defense ever created. Guess what? You're going to have to be able to score 20 with semi-regularity if you're going to even have an idea of winning, and that's a team that struggles to score 10.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it speaks to, yes, when you watch it as close as we do and passionate Notre Dame fans do, you can't help but be frustrated with some of what Marcus Freeman does. But when you compare him to what else is going around the country and what else is going on with the kind of that class of 22 coaching carousel, he's been a lot more of a hit than he's been a miss in some of the other big time programs.
Well, now
Billy Napier, I forgot from that class.
I can understand why. I can see why you're trying to forget that one.
Yeah, are they going to we'll see if he lasts until Thanksgiving, right?
Like, what is their move? Do you dump him and try and give Lane Kiffin a bunch of money and have him jump over? That is like the rumor I've seen the most prevalent is, Billy's gone, and then you try and get Lane and entice him to come over and recruit Florida, I guess. I don't
know. Yeah. I mean, Florida has to come up with a heck of a pitch, I think, because
Lane's in a pretty
some of that NIL issues of having that sorted out. Who was the player that Miami went back and forth with? Miami, Florida. Was there another school in there? I forget. And then tried suing the University of Florida or the athletic department. Not to say that Napier's done like an outstanding job, because he clearly hasn't, but I think there's bigger issues there than just the head coach too. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, do I go to Florida where the pressure is win a national championship or play in an SEC championship game with regularity or bust, or stay at Ole Miss where it's kind of, we like being that. If we're in the conversation for the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, we're damn excited because we're not normally that.
Yeah, and I also look at the state of Florida different because I look at it as a 3-headed recruiting situation. And like, I'm always judging one against the other two on who's landing these in-state recruits, that Southern talent with between Miami and Florida State. And obviously now Miami's got it rolling more than the other two do, obviously. But I always look at that as being really interesting. Who's the odd man out in that big 3 recruiting Florida situation? That's always in my mind. But you mentioned Freeman.
That's another one, by the way. Mario Cristobal was in that rotation.
There you go. And you know what? They've been begging for losses and escaping too. They're another one that should have 2 or 3. They've been begging to catch a loss and keep getting away with it. But you keep mentioning Freeman and the job he's doing. And correct me if I'm wrong. Got nominated for the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award. Am I dreaming, or did that happen, or what?
He's on like what is the watch list or the mid-season list or whatever the heck the official name of it is. That got released on I believe it was on Wednesday. And wait. What
are the qualifications one must have to be able to be nominated for this award? I feel like that is a very reasonable question. I would like to know what you got to do to be up for this award.
Okay. Freeman I'll read the exact release. Freeman selected to Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award watch list. South Bend, Indiana. Dick Corbett. It's a man, not a condition. Head football coach Marcus Freeman has been named the watch list for the American Heart Association's 2024 Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award, honoring contributions that make the sport better for athletes and fans alike by demonstrating grit, integrity, and a winning approach to coaching in life, both on and off the field. Freeman has been named the honorary head coach for the 2024 AFCA All-State Good Works team and has also been selected to the Dodd Trophy watch list for the 2024 season. So this one seems like it's more of the kind of your service off of the field, but the Dodd Award is the one. I mean, he's on that watch list too for Coach of the Year of like what the actual you think did the best coaching performance. I look at Freeman though, and
I got problems with this. So you say what you're going to say, and then I bet you're going to know what I'm going to say back, but you say what you're going to say.
Okay, so like if you're giving out the award for Coach of the Year right now, Jeff Monken from Army, we spent some time talking about Army. Brian Newberry from Navy would kind of be on that list.
People are going to
throw off of last year, Mario Cristobal,
Clark Lee in there. Are they going to throw Clark Lee's name in there after what he did against Alabama and want to throw him a bone?
Absolutely. I think he's one of them. I think that you go to a Big Ten country, Kurt Signetti. That's a turnaround for Indiana right now.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Matt Rule, if you want to get into turnarounds, like Nebraska, they have the one loss against the Illini, but they're sitting 5-1. They're a win away from bowl eligibility for the first time since like 2016, which is kind of crazy to think. There's a few of them out there. I'm not saying Marcus Freeman should win the award. Like, I'm not going to blindly look at it like some Notre Dame fans on social media that just, oh, yeah, Freeman's dealt with injuries. He deserves to win it. No one else has done more. Like, Clark Lee still exists. Still other turnarounds, too. Not that Notre Dame's necessarily a huge turnaround. But I think Freeman's done a solid job. And, like, it's John, I don't want to rip on you here. But when I do my post-game wandering across the internet, there's a lot of Notre Dame media out there that after they go and they beat the hell out of someone 49-7, that the interpretation is that Notre Dame just lost 20-16 with a lot of the reaction that gets mentioned. And it's like, did I watch the same game? Like after Louisville, like watching some of the other stuff that's out there, did I watch the same thing? Because that's a team that held a 2-score lead for about 40 minutes of the day. They kind of kicked the living you-know-what out of Louisville and played to the game instead of playing to a box score.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I see questions with Marcus Freeman. I also see a guy that we sat here talking the first 10, 15 minutes of this about injuries. Oh, my God, another injury. Another All-American. The other.
They keep winning.
They're 5-1. And tell me the game they're not going to be favored in the rest of the way. Like, it's not a guarantee that they win it, but he has them in position. It's easy to look at the frustrating losses. I get it. I do it. I'm guilty of it. This is a team that's playing very well right now, and I don't want to sell that short.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say they're trending up, especially on offense a little bit. You do feel like they're starting to trend in a good direction, which is very encouraging because it's the number one thing I think we all needed to see to feel better about the second half of the year is that offense and Riley Leonard feeling like you're trending in the right direction. You know what I'm going to say, and I'm half joking when I say I have trouble with the guy being on the Coach of the Year award and also in the same year maybe having the worst loss in the history of the school at home on that resume. I struggle with that. However, if this was after the year and you didn't lose a game after that, then I'm interested in having that guy back in there for bouncing back and never losing again after week 2 with all the injuries and the negativity that came with Northern Illinois. But as we sit right now, I do kind of laugh and I go, bro, yeah, I love Notre Dame more than anybody. I can't put a guy on the list that maybe owns the worst loss in Notre Dame football history after one of the best wins in Notre Dame football history in like 20 years. One of the best wins, like a rock solid SEC road win. And then to follow it up with that loss, it really did. That's where I'm at. That's hard
to piggyback on you. One of the biggest wins of the last 20 or 30 years that, by the way, week by week keeps getting better.
It does indeed.
Like Texas A&M keeps winning, just keeps knocking off another team from the SEC.
That's fair.
Oh, well, yeah, their season was, it wasn't so much done when they lost to Notre Dame, was it?
That it's, you're totally right. And it's totally fair that if I'm going to rip on that Northern loss for being so bad, you have an obligation, if you're being fair, to admit the A&M win keeps getting higher in value as the weeks go by too. And you know what else? Remember all the talk we did about if you're going to catch those guys, you want to catch them early before they get rolling and they get going. Kind of glad we did, because they got that defense and now they're starting to move the ball on offense too. And that's a dangerous team then. So I'm glad we got them when we did.
I'm with you. But hey, it counts the same. Even if I think I do feel a little bit like 2018 when you go and you beat the hell out of Michigan in week 1.
Yeah.
And then Michigan wins up until the Ohio State game. And it's like by the end of that year, Notre Dame was rated above Michigan. But if you listen to the talking heads, this Michigan team's one of the 2 or 3 best in the country, then goes and gives up a 50 burger to Ohio State. But it feels kind of reminiscent of that, of like, I can feel it starting to be coming. If Notre Dame and Texas A&M both keep winning, and say Texas A&M only has that 1 loss going into that Texas game, it's going to feel a lot like that 2018 Michigan thing where, okay, well, Notre Dame beat them head to head in week 1, but let's forget about that for now. That doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, back in the summer. Remember how hot it was? Like,
that's the way the conversation always kind of goes there. But I mean, to answer your question, do I think Marcus Freeman's a coach of the year? Hell no. I think he has done a very commendable job. Like I for a guy that after that Northern game, I wrote the piece saying your honeymoon is over. That your mulligans are over.
And all the questions are fair to ask. We all did all those articles. Yeah,
I did that as much as anyone. He's responded well. He's dealt with adversity extremely well, and he has this team. I mean, with bandages, duct tape, whatever else he needs to have to keep it going, he has it going and has it been in a position to be in the college football playoff as we enter the back half of the year.
Yeah, it's.
But my vote, it'll go to Clark Lee.
Yeah. And let's,
for now. I mean, if I were voting,
let's see what happens. Let's transition the discussion a little bit. Other big Notre Dame news. Listen, the Deuce Knight saga, it just got exhausting, Nick, and everybody felt it. From the fan base to the media that had to cover it, it became exhausting, and then it almost became insulting when he's on our list of recruits, but is flashing for the other team and recruiting guys. It almost became insulting. I am relieved now it's all over. And when I mean all, I mean not only is he gone and we wrap a bow on that, but the guy that came in the class to replace him is now in the fold too, and we could wrap this whole thing up. Blake Hebert is in an interesting situation, Nick. The guy replacing what Deuce Knight was supposed to be in this class, that's not an easy position to be in, because he just isn't Deuce and thought of in that athletic freak type way. But Nick, it's a guy that Dabo Swinney wanted, who has pretty good history with quarterbacks and knowing what he's looking for. Kind of a bigger body guy, a big arm from what I heard. He can move a little bit. How do you feel about how this has all ended up and Notre Dame getting the flip from Hebert? Is this like RKG plus? We just need a guy on the back end. Now we're in a bad spot. Or do you feel like this is a guy that if he wouldn't have got that injury, would have kept rising up the quarterback ranks? And maybe you got a guy here. What's your initial thought to this?
I mean, I always listen, I don't dive into the recruiting film like some people do. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I'm not in my 20s and don't have a family now. Like when I loved recruiting or when I really ate and breathed the recruiting part up, like that's, didn't have other obligations in life. But I do the test of like, all right, Notre Dame got a commitment. Oh, they flipped him from Clemson. Okay, Clemson has had a history with recruiting quarterbacks. Offensive coordinator there, Garrett Riley at TCU, helped TCU get to the championship game a couple years ago. He's had a history of developing quarterbacks. Okay, so if he liked him, then that's a good thing. Auburn is on his list of scholarship offers there. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin had a scholarship offer out to him. Penn State had offer out to him. Like, it's not this list that's like jumping off the charts at you, like, oh my God, Bama, Georgia, Florida State, all of them. It's not that, but there's some big name programs on there. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to take a snap at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame clearly, Gino and company identified their guys, said, hey, this is worth the squeeze. Went and made a flip from Clemson. Like, that's commendable. That's a good thing. Like, hats off. Good job.
Yeah.
Like,
And you know,
you
the
took a
part,
crap situation, you made it less crappy.
Nick, here's the part with the spin and some of the Notre Dame circle and all this that I don't know the reality of. And people have asked me about it behind the scenes, and I don't know the answer. You know, I've been reading these articles since this flip that, you know, before there was this love fest with Deuce, and Deuce was in a hurry to commit. This was the guy Notre Dame staff really wanted, and he was high on their list before. But then Deuce came in. I don't know how true or not that is, or if that's just like what comes out from the Notre Dame recruiting media circle to make us all feel a little better about the situation, you know, like, and it's like, this is the guy that was originally wanted before Deuce hit the scene. I don't know what the realities of that are or not, to make us feel better. And I do think there's an angle here for Hebert to be able to fly under the radar. He's not Deuce. You're getting looked at as like I don't want to say this, it's disrespectful, like a throw-in replacement recruit level guy. You don't have that 2-year-long love fest relationship to get to know your new quarterback like you did with Carr, like you did with Deuce. You don't have that elongated dating period. I think he's got a chance to fly right under the radar. And if he develops quickly, surprise people, that could play into his advantage at Notre Dame.
It's kind of like the Minchie thing from a couple of years ago.
I've never heard of the guy. Who is he? I've never heard of him.
All of a sudden, now he's visiting. He's a Pitt commit. Oh, he's visiting. Oh, yep. Tommy Rees flipped him. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the best part about that is knowing how mad it made Narduzzi too. Just how anytime
Narduzzi is a guy I get conflicted on because some of the NIL stuff, like the Jordan Addison stuff, I know, but he hates Notre Dame so much.
Yeah,
like between him and Pat Fitzgerald, their little love fest together. Yeah, like how they used to try to, when one would have them on the schedule, they'd try to game plan for the other to try to beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, and just
so I can only imagine, like,
football-y guys, football-y, so football-y.
Right, like, what do you think of the election? I don't know. Run power, run power, like,
and it transfer portal.
Right. Yeah, very football-y dudes. I say that making fun of Narduzzi. The side note, shout out to the Pitt SIDs if they're, the 1 in a million chance that they're listening. But one of the best sports information departments to ever work with when Notre Dame takes on them. So shout out to Ed Borghetti on the guys. But
nice.
Besides that, yeah, Pat Narduzzi, it doesn't ever break my heart to see him lose a recruit, especially to Notre Dame, lose a recruiting battle there. Like anything that irritates him tends to make me happy. So I'm with you on that. Dating back to his time in Michigan State. My God.
Yeah, just so I don't know. I think it's good job by Notre Dame for wrapping this all up quickly and moving on. It had to be very, very frustrating for them behind the scenes. They made the best of it. I knew what I was going to get on the show this morning. Half the crew going, there's upside here. This could work out, and he's a good player. And the other half going, RKG, this whole class is a failure. Freeman's failing. You went from Deuce to this. And I knew that's what you're going to get, and only time's going to tell. The reality is the only way everybody was going to be on board with the next move is if it was a guy higher rated than Deuce or at the same level. That's the only way everybody would have felt good about it. And we all knew that probably wasn't likely. So I guess I give him credit for this as the backup plan. Nick, we can't get out of here before we talk about the Georgia Tech rambling wreck. Okay. You got Notre Dame going down to this, the Dome in Atlanta. I am not terribly afraid of, by the way. Like, this is not one of those moments where I'm like, oh, man, we're going in this Dome and I'm scared of the crowd or whatever. That's really not in my mind. Maybe that's a mistake. It's not in my mind that that's going to be an intimidation factor. Notre Dame, they played pretty decent on the road, actually, this year. I feel pretty good about that. What do you make of this Georgia Tech matchup? Kind of an up and down team, some good wins, a couple losses they wish they didn't have, maybe a quarterback that's beat up, but an offense puts up a ton of yards and points. What do you make of this matchup this week?
Yeah, I mean, it starts up front. They have an offensive line that's very good, and they have speed that they try to weaponize against the ACC. It's not overly complicated. Like Haynes King, the quarterback, what do you have? 16 interceptions last year. That's down to 1. I think that's the biggest difference that you're seeing is you're not giving away the ball. And when you stop doing that, then the offense is able to score points and you're able to win more games.
That is a drastic shift in taking care of the ball.
It's huge. And they have a very solid running game. So, I mean, I think it's not like, okay, it's Georgia Tech. It's all the nerds, the engineering nerds at Georgia Tech that Notre Dame's playing. Like, this is a very good Georgia Tech team. Like, maybe worthy of consideration to make the top 25 by the end of the year. Maybe. Like, it's not just like this 2-foot putt. But I do, like, who's the genius at Georgia Tech that thinks that scheduling games in Mercedes-Benz Dome is a good idea? Like, get it on your home field. It's already a city that Notre Dame goes to, once every 6-7 years?
Yep.
So it's not like Notre Dame never goes to Atlanta, but they play Georgia Tech once in a great while. You're going to have more people there. Like, it's a huge city. Like, it's a huge...
Yep.
I mean, not like a huge Notre Dame alumni base, but still plenty of people that Notre Dame's not in that general vicinity a lot of the time. So, okay, we're going to go to Atlanta for the weekend and see the Irish and see the College Football Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know what you're thinking if you're Georgia Tech. If, like, you have the deal with the ACC, why would you move this to Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
I remember seeing some games in that little stadium they got where it gets loud and rocking. I remember when they upset, I think it was Jameis Winston era Florida State at their place, and that place could get loud and rocking. So I think it does Notre Dame a favor moving it out of there and into a bigger city like that. I do think that favors Notre Dame. Here's a question I have, Nick, and I've been struggling with this, writing my articles this week and in my content, thinking about it. I feel like I was encouraged last week by Notre Dame being able to throw the ball around more effectively. 229 for Riley Leonard, 229 for us feels like 429 for a lot of teams, okay? Like, I'm just not used to it. So the 229 feels like a lot more juice to Notre Dame people. Here's my question, though. Can we see some more of that this week and a continued incremental improvement in the passing game and having more of a balanced, effective offense? Or was a lot of that just due to the fact that Stanford's secondary was really bad and the defense overall, 122nd rate pass effectiveness against the pass defensively, they were really bad. So I want this to be that Notre Dame's improving and getting better, and not just we find out Stanford sucks on the back end. And I'm really interested to see the realities of that.
I mean, I think it's a concern if you don't do that against Stanford, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Okay. Right. You can only play who you're scheduled against.
Yeah.
And you went out and you performed against Stanford.
Yep.
And I don't know if that happens early in September or not. I know it didn't happen against Northern Illinois. I can tell you that much.
Dude, no, wait, they see you're nailing it, Nick. You're nailing it. Because that's the pushback I got for being glad about that was, well, John, you're the one who said they were terrible, and now you're giving us credit for beating them, but they're My point is, we have been in these situations before and weren't even able to do what you should do against a bad defense. The point is, you may say that's a low bar, but that is progress, that you are able to take advantage when you should have. We have not always been able to do that. Like the last time Stanford was in town, or week 2 of this year, for example. Like
Drew Pine playing quarterback that night last time Stanford was in town.
Yeah.
All-time RKG.
That's my argument, is like, I might be a low bar, but you're doing what good teams do against bad defenses.
Yeah. And listen, it still started with the running game. You get the running game going. Stanford has to do something to try to stop that. And then Riley Leonard's able to take advantage of a lot of man-to-man defenses against that. And that's what he did against Stanford. And I guess that's the hope to try to do against Georgia Tech too. I do think it wasn't an accident, though, of how much Notre Dame's going to rely on the run game, I expect this week, because they know that's their strength, of why you only saw Jeremiah Love get 6 or 7 touches last week, why you didn't see Riley Leonard running a ton. I think a lot of that was preservation for, well, this Georgia Tech team is going to be a more difficult outfit to take on, have to do something that plays to our strength. All right, let's try to get a fresh pair of legs on these guys as much as possible. And I think that was part of the game plan too, of, all right, take care of business. And as long as it's out of reach for Stanford, let's keep some legs fresh in that backfield, because this is going to be a little bit more of a tougher test with the travel and with a pretty solid team against Georgia Tech coming up Saturday.
Yeah, I think that those are all really, really good points. It's a little bit interesting. This came up on the morning show as well. I think that line was 6.5 or 7 in Notre Dame's favor. And over the night or late last night, some places it bounced all the way up over 10 to like 11.
I never liked that.
Dude, I saw it up at 11, and I started getting text messages from people that follow that, and they gamble a little, and they were going, John, is this a sign that they know that Haynes King isn't going to play? And that's why they're bumping it that much. Like, what do they know that we don't know that gives them the confidence? Is it just Notre Dame beat the crap out of Stanford? But like, there's a lot of people are thinking, I wonder if they know something more about that quarterback's health status, that maybe he's not going to go and it's pumping Notre Dame up. I don't know what to make of that. And I don't know.
So I don't know. I get these random emails from different things of just, hey, compiled statistics, this, that, the other. One of them was from Action Network, and it was trends, stats, and notes for week 8. The first note that they have in here, headlined, free to cover. Marcus Freeman is having a great run in Notre Dame's coaching tenure when it comes to covering the spread. He is currently 35-10 straight up. Okay, that's a good win-loss record, even though we cited some of the bad losses in there. 29-15-1 against the spread, with a minimum of 40 games coached, which he surpasses with 45. That 65.9 against the spread win percentage is the highest of any head coach since 1990. How's that for a nugget?
That's a heck of a nug, man. Wow.
The contrary to that, Notre Dame might want to be careful this week, since 2022, no team has more upsets as a double-digit favorite, I should say, than Georgia Tech.
Ooh. So
they have 5. Boston College, Vanderbilt, and Northwestern have all won 4 games as a double-digit dog in that time.
That's that is really, really some interesting dynamics there. And you want to know what else I'm going to add onto this fire? The log I'm going to put on here is, I believe if Notre Dame wins this contest, it'll be the longest winning streak under Freeman of his tenure at Notre Dame. It'll either tie it or be it alone as far as the longest winning streak in a row. That alone, I value. That is how you build week-to-week consistency. That is how you build a standard of, you just get used to winning and it becomes the default. You know what I mean? When you win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 2, whatever. I don't like that, man. You get into this winning and it just becomes the bar every week, and it's just win, 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 and it becomes your default setting. There's a lot on the line, Nick, and we're going to say that every week the rest of the year. There is a lot on the line. It feels like 6 elimination playoff games in a row is what we're gearing up for.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it feels like there's not the wiggle room to get in with 10 at 2, just because of what the power of one of those losses is. It's going to be the worst of probably any college football playoff contender.
That's the problem with the 2 losses, is one of them isn't going to stack up to a Big Ten or SEC second loss. That's the problem I see.
Yeah, but if you do win out, that 11-1, the question isn't whether or not Notre Dame gets in at 11-1.
It's the home game, isn't it?
It's the home game.
Yeah. And then you could use the argument, fluke Northern Illinois, because you kind of proved it by sweeping the rest of the schedule. Then I feel like you may have the argument of the fluke Northern Illinois thing, that I can't go there now. But if you run the table with all those injuries, then I'm open to that argument.
Yeah. And so I do want, for those people that right after the A&M game, I know you wrote the piece of hotel prices at Airbnb are skyrocketing in South Bend
Nick,
area and this and
I'm
that.
kind of mad that you're bringing this up. You're blowing this right up in my face because look at what happened 1 week later. What an idiot that I wrote that story.
But I'm telling you, it's
coming
not
back.
out of the picture.
It's coming
Like
back.
it was just, okay, well, Notre Dame's done. This, that, what.
Yeah.
Get ready. Notre Dame wins out. Get ready to be freezing your butt off in Notre Dame Stadium on December 20th. I'm just telling you.
Okay, 8. 8's the lowest seed that gets to host, correct? So you see Notre Dame can be positioned, even with the Big Ten and the SEC credibility, filtering in there.
They have to cannibalize each other.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest thing.
And late in the year, too, which usually penalizes you more than an early loss does.
Because you kind of look at it, and not to say like the AP poll reflects what the poll will look like from the committee, but like, okay, Alabama and Tennessee play this week. One of those is going to have 2 losses at the end of the day. Tennessee then still has to play Georgia. Alabama still has to go to LSU. Like there is a lot of losses to be had, guaranteed losses for teams that are in front of you. That's just one example of it.
Yeah.
Like Texas, they play Georgia. They have to go to Texas A&M. Forget who else is on Texas's schedule, but it's no, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, you might be number 1 now, but there's losses to be had. There's losses to be had in the SEC championship game. Like you could be looking at this and seeing some of those teams 2-3 losses, and all of a sudden, oh, here comes Notre Dame at 11-1. Like if you have that room right now reserved for South Bend or Granger or wherever the heck it might be, I'm just telling you, you might want to hold on to it, Nick, instead of just ditching it.
It was so funny. It's like,
or maybe it's a good time to go invest in one and then flip the reservation and make some money off of that somehow.
But dude, imagine some dork who doesn't care about football at all, but he just logged in to go visit grandma for the holidays. And it's like sleepy South Bend, Indiana. You're like $2,200 for a Holiday Inn Express. What's going on?
What just in God's name? Like they realize the weather, it sucks in South Bend come December, right? Like what? I don't want to be here. Why is this so expensive?
Oh, it's so funny. And it's just a run-of-the-mill Comfort Inn off an interstate. There's a million off a toll road. Right. There's a million of them. That'll be $1,800 a night, sir. Like, whoa, I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to Granny. Like, okay, so save my article. Maybe it comes back around. But, Nick, people are smart. They remembered I wrote that. Do you know how many little chats I've gotten where it's like, John, how's your hotel room set up for late December? Like,
just earmark all of them. Just earmark all of them, and you might have something to stand on here.
People nailed me on that right after Northern. They were like, hey, John, how are those hotel rates? Did you check? I'm like, dude, I can't even be mad. I deserve it for writing it. But I saw the tweet with the numbers that showed how much it spiked. And I'm like, this is an article, and I'm writing it, and I'm paying the price, Nick.
I'm telling you, you might not be wrong at the end of the day. That's all I'll say.
Man.
When I say might, I'm like the only person that's going to be like, I saw one other guy from 24/7 Sports in his projections have Notre Dame have a home playoff game this week. I forget who it was. I would give him credit. But I was like, instead of just looking at the AP standings and being like, oh, plug this team here, plug that team there, say program like I was creative and, came up with something on my own. Like all these, cookie cutter stuff that's out there. If you actually go in and kind of project the season, if Notre Dame does what it has to do, which hasn't always been the case, I get that. But if it does what it should do,
what a comeback.
You're playing under touchdown Jesus the week of Christmas.
It would be an unbelievable comeback through the injuries and the week 2 loss. I will say this. I'm not trying to pee in the cornflakes here. That Notre Dame stats and research. That Notre Dame stats and research Twitter account that does a lot of good numbers crunching. 10,000 computer simulations ran the back half of the season. 41% is the likelihood of the 10,000 computer simulations of Notre Dame ending up 10-2. So that's a 40% is kind of where they see the odds of catching another loss here on the back end. And then I think there's 20% on either side there of dropping all the way back to losing 2 more or running it at 11-1. So that's kind of where those numbers fall. Nick, what a comeback it would be if you came back from Northern and all these injuries to not lose again. Now I'm interested in talking about Freeman getting a lot of credit, but you got to do a lot more here to get me to that point. That's
I would
all I'm
love to
saying.
know those numbers of like, I'm guessing USC is the most common loss, but like what the chances it gives Notre Dame of beating Georgia Tech.
I think it was
if you're able to get through this, then I would love to see how much the numbers then shift.
It was 65-35 or something, I think. Notre Dame. I think don't quote me on that, but that's the number that was in my brain. And then what was it, 56 or something % over USC out at their place? That seems about right to me.
Okay.
This far out too, that seems about right to me.
USC just keeps dropping defensive linemen, by the way. Another one out for the year.
They're down a couple more guys I saw for the year. They're getting thin. So it's going to be really interesting. And so Nick, as we round this episode up, neither one of us have written our article or our paragraph submitting for SI what we're going to pick for the Georgia Tech Notre Dame game. We all do it, and none of us talk. None of us sees the other. We all want to do it on our own. Pick the games. I mean, I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win, maybe like a 10-point win or something, an 8-point win somewhere. I don't think it gets away from it, but I think Notre Dame can pull it off. That's where I'm going to be. I'm not going to pick against Notre Dame in this spot.
I mean, I think the depth of Notre Dame comes out in this one. I think Georgia Tech does have a very talented offense that's not going to be a slouch. Mm-hmm. But like, let's not pretend like Notre Dame doesn't have. They're allowing the 8th fewest points in college football.
Yep.
Like they are. This is a great defensive unit.
Yep.
You know, like it's a very, even without Benjamin Morrison. Okay, you're not going to have Morrison's talent. You still have more than capable bodies out there. I trust it. I think that part of the game plan for this week started last week against Stanford, like I had said. And I think some fresher legs out there. I like Notre Dame in this one too. I don't think they run away from Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech does have an offense that, even if it's not putting up points, is going to be able to maintain drives and at least take time off the clock. But I like Notre Dame in that 7 to 10 point range.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I'll have to pick the exact numbers that we're going to land on, but that's kind of where I'm at too. If Notre Dame's able to get through this one with the victory, and then we got to deal with the whole Navy thing, and that'll be its own separate, it's nothing like anything else in Notre Dame land, the Navy discussion every year. It's in its own land. If you get through that one, then you're reaching that second bye. And then you get into the back half of this, Florida State, Virginia, Army, USC. That's where you really start getting tunnel vision towards the playoff and getting serious about this. So critical couple games coming up. Notre Dame's battling the injury front, and it's got to be the next man up's just got to be good enough in a lot of these cases. Anything else, Nick? I love this episode. A lot of energy this week. We covered a lot of ground. There's a lot of news. Anything else? I think we covered a lot.
I mean, I think we covered a lot. Do we ever cover it all? I don't think it's ever possible to, because there's, like you say, there's always something with this team. Win, lose, draw, indifferent. Like there's always something that goes on with this club. So no, I think that covers my chart of at least of what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to talk, topic wise. But yeah, I keep telling people, this is a good football team. And it seems like there is a contingent of Notre Dame fans that are, I get it. There's a lot of scar tissue built up over the years from earlier this year. I know. But I will say, like, the joy that comes with your team accomplishing something, it's greater when you buy in more. And I'm telling you, I'm in the pool. I'm in the water. It might seem like it's cold, but once you get in, it's all right in here. It's okay. There's no sharks in the water. You're going to be all right. It might take you another week or two. I get it. A couple weeks for some of you. That's fine. I'm just saying the water's warm. Get ready to dive on in. This is a good football team. and you want to be in the pool when Notre Dame's hosting a playoff game come December 20th
Man,
or 21st.
I'm telling you, Nick, there's a lot of people in Notre Dame land that needed to hear that little speech you just gave. And you know what, buddy? You might be talking to one of them right now. Like you might be like, there's a lot of people that needed to hear that, and I might be number one on the damn list now. I needed that. Thank you.
It's like this fear to be like, oh, this is good. Man, they look good today, but Northern Illinois.
You kind of want to watch with like one eye looking and one eye closed.
This is a good football team.
Yeah.
You and I sat through the freaking Davie years. We sat through the Tyrone Willingham bullshit. We sat through Charlie Weiss's last 3 years. Oh. This is a good football team. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
I needed this.
Like, God, it is.
I needed this.
They probably don't win a national championship. No one thought they were going to before the year. You only get 12 regular season games. Hopefully you get a 13th or 14th, and hell, things fall right, maybe a 15th. But enjoy it now so you can really enjoy it when December and January get around.
Oh, man, this is bill my insurance company for this session. Just bill me for the therapy.
Director of morale. That's what I can be.
Oh, that's
Notre
a good
Dame on
one.
Sports Illustrated and Always Irish, Director of Morale, Nick Shepkowski.
I like that. I appreciate that. Nick, thanks so much for joining me. A reminder, everybody, really thank you to everybody with the kind words that has reached out about the work we're doing over on the website. People seem to like what we're doing, and everybody kind of has a different approach and a different field how they attack the content, and people are enjoying it. We really sincerely appreciate everybody that's been over there now. And we're just getting started, and we're going to keep grinding out the content. And every single day, you know, when you get up in the morning, first thing, check the website, see what's new. We got you covered in Notre Dame land. And so, Nick, thank you so much for joining me. And we'll log our official predictions here in the next day on the website, and we'll see where we all fall. And thanks again, everybody, for being here. This was a lot of fun.